I consider this disloyal, Richard. Preston Caldwell's voice cut through his corner office like a knife. He sat behind that massive desk of his, the one that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, looking at me like I'd just committed corporate treason. It was 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'd been with Harbor Point Communications for 12 years. 12 years of late nights, weekend calls, and missing my son's baseball games. And now this. After everything Harbor Point has done for you, Preston continued, tapping his finger on a printed email, I have confirmation you interviewed with North Bay Solutions last Thursday. You took a half day for a dental appointment, I believe? My name is Richard Brennan. I'm 48 years old, and up until that moment, I thought I'd built something solid here in Spokane. I started as a senior engineer right out of my previous job, worked my way up to project director. I managed the technical operations for our biggest clients, brought in millions in cost savings, and built relationships that kept this place running. But apparently, none of that mattered now. Security will meet you at your desk, Preston said, sliding my building access card across the mahogany. Your email access is already disabled. The thing that burned most wasn't the firing itself. It was the 3 years leading up to it. 3 times I'd walked into this same office with performance reports, industry salary comparisons, and requests for a raise that actually reflected what I was worth. 3 times I'd heard variations of tough budget year and we need to tighten our belts. Meanwhile, Preston drove a new Audi, and the company leased an entire additional floor last year. I stood up, straightened my jacket. I understand. Preston looked almost disappointed. Maybe he'd expected me to beg or argue. Instead, I extended my hand across his desk. I wish you and Harbor Point continued success. He hesitated before shaking it, confusion crossing his face. The security guard, Mike, a decent guy who'd always said hello in the mornings, hovered awkwardly by my desk while I packed up 12 years into a cardboard box. Family photos. The coffee mug Drew gave me for Father's Day 3 years ago. World's okayest dad, it said. The small desk plant Carol bought when I made director. My coworkers shot concerned glances my way. A few looked like they wanted to say something but didn't know how. I smiled at them, kept it professional. No drama. I loaded the box into my Ford F-150, 2018 model, bought it used when Drew started high school. Preston used to joke about my contractor truck in the executive parking lot. His Audi looked ridiculous next to it. Walking out of that parking garage with my box secure in the truck bed, the April sun warm on my face, I realized something. Preston thought he was punishing me. He had no idea what was coming. My phone buzzed as I started the engine. Text from Alan Morris, CEO of North Bay Solutions. Can we move our final discussion to today, 2 p.m.? I smiled and texted back, I'll be there. Let me back up and explain how we got here. I joined Harbor Point 12 years ago with a solid background in engineering project management. Started strong, took on the difficult projects nobody wanted, stayed late when deadlines got tight. Within 4 years, I was handling North Bay Solutions, our largest client, worth about 30% of Harbor Point's annual revenue. Alan Morris specifically requested me as project director after I'd stepped in during a crisis when their previous contact dropped the ball on a major system upgrade. You're the only one who seems to understand what we need before we ask, he'd told me. From that point on, the relationship flourished. North Bay extended their contract, doubled their budget with us. Preston was pleased then. This is exactly the kind of initiative we value, he'd said, but that value never translated into my paycheck. My first raise request came after that North Bay success. I had the numbers, the metrics, the comparisons to market rates. It's just not in the budget this year, Richard, Preston had said with what I now recognize as rehearsed regret. But your contribution is noted. I accepted it. The economy had been uncertain, and I was still proving myself at the director level. Year 2, after bringing in 3 new major accounts and implementing a system that saved the company $3 million in operational costs, I asked again. Same answer. Next year will be better. We just need to tighten our belts a little longer. Meanwhile, Harbor Point announced record profits at the quarterly meeting. The third denial came 6 months ago, right after I'd negotiated a 40% increase in North Bay's contract value, not just revenue, but actual project scope that would keep us busy for 2 years. Your performance is exceptional, Richard, Preston had said. But we're investing in infrastructure this year. Perhaps we can revisit this in the summer. Something broke in me that night. I went home, sat at my kitchen table while Carol made dinner, and told her I was done waiting. Drew was finishing his junior year at Washington State, $45,000 a year in tuition we'd refinanced our mortgage to cover. Carol's firm had been doing layoffs. We needed stability, and Harbor Point was offering me nothing but empty promises. Then start looking, Carol said simply. You've given them everything. It's time they gave back or you find someone who will. So I updated my resume for the first time in 12 years. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. I just never expected Preston would find out before I was ready to give notice. At home, I set the cardboard box on the kitchen counter. I grabbed a beer from the fridge, Rainier, the cheap stuff I'd been drinking since my 20s, and stared at that box. Drew's coffee mug from Father's Day sitting on top. The reality hit me then. I wasn't just between meetings or taking a day off. I was unemployed. My phone rang. Brian, my best friend since college, his girlfriend's brother. Neil worked in IT at Harbor Point. I just heard, Brian said when I picked up. Neil texted me. You okay? Processing, I said, dropping onto a kitchen stool. It happened fast. It's completely unfair. Everyone knows you're the only reason North Bay hasn't walked already. Preston's just intimidated because you're better at the job than he ever was. There was truth to that. Preston had been a project manager before moving into the CEO role 3 years ago. He'd been decent at it, but he missed being the one clients called directly. He'd started inserting himself into my North Bay meetings unnecessarily, sometimes contradicting decisions I'd already cleared with Alan. The worst part is how he did it, I said, like I'd committed treason by looking for opportunities after being denied a fair raise for 3 years straight. It's his loss, Brian replied. And honestly, Rich, maybe this is for the best. You've been undervalued there forever. He was right. I'd stayed out of loyalty to my team and clients, not because it was smart for my career, but getting fired like this, escorted out like I'd stolen company property, that stung. My phone beeped. Alan Morris calling. Brian, I need to take this. Go. Call me after. I took a breath and answered. Alan. Richard, I just heard what happened at Harbor Point, he said, getting straight to the point. Are you available to come in today? I'd like to accelerate our conversation. My pulse jumped. Yes, I can be there at 2 p.m. Excellent. And Richard, don't worry about this morning. Sometimes these things work out for the best. After hanging up, I texted Carol. Got fired. Long story. North Bay wants to meet at 2. Her response came back immediately. Come home first. I drove back to the house. Carol was already there, having left work early. She made coffee in the French press she'd bought me last Christmas. The good stuff from that roaster on Monroe Street. Not the break room swill I'd been drinking for 12 years. While the coffee brewed, I told her everything. 12 years, Richard, she said, shaking her head, and he fires you for looking elsewhere after refusing to pay you what you're worth. That's not loyalty, that's exploitation. I know. So what's North Bay offering? Don't know yet. Could be a consulting role, could be project management, could be nothing. Carol poured the coffee and sat down across from me. She put her hand on mine. Whatever it is, you're worth more than Preston ever gave you credit for. Remember that walking in there. I showered, changed into my best suit, and headed downtown. North Bay Solutions occupied the top 3 floors of a glass building that made Harbor Point's dated office look like something from the 1990s. Open workspace, collaborative areas, floor-to-ceiling windows with mountain views. The kind of place that actually invested in its people. Alan Morris met me in the lobby himself, early 50s, sharp but approachable. We'd worked together for years, and I'd always respected how he ran his business. Richard, he said, shaking my hand firmly, thanks for coming on short notice. Appreciate the flexibility. It's been an unexpected day. Let's talk in my office. We walked through the workspace. Several North Bay employees I knew from our projects waved or nodded. Alan's corner office was modest compared to Preston's showcase, but comfortable. Coffee? He offered. Please. Once we sat down with our mugs, Alan got to the point. I received a call from Preston Caldwell this morning. He informed me you'd no longer be handling the North Bay account, and that he'd personally oversee our business until a replacement was assigned. I kept my expression neutral, despite the anger rising in my chest. Of course, Preston would try to keep their biggest client himself. What he doesn't know, Alan continued, is that our board has been concerned about our relationship with Harbor Point for the past year. This surprised me. Concerned? The last project exceeded projections by 23%. The results were excellent because of your work, but we've noticed changes at Harbor Point, delayed responses from anyone except you, quality issues, a sense that they're taking our business for granted." He set down his mug. 3 months ago, our board suggested we explore other partners. I resisted because of our relationship with you. I sat up straighter, seeing where this was going. "When you reached out about opportunities here," Alan said, "it felt like perfect timing. But I need to be clear. We were never planning to poach you. We respect professional boundaries. We were prepared to wait until you gave proper notice." "I was planning to give 2 weeks," I said, "once I had a firm offer." Alan smiled. "I believe you. Your professionalism is one of the reasons we're having this conversation." He opened a folder and slid a document across. "This isn't an interview, Richard. It's an offer. Director of Technical Operations. You'd build and lead a team managing all our infrastructure projects and client technical relationships." I looked down at the paper. The salary figure made me blink. It was nearly double what I'd been making at Harbor Point, more than I would have even asked for in my last denied request. "This is generous," I managed. "It's market rate for someone with your experience and proven results," Alan corrected. "Sometimes it takes leaving a situation to realize what you're actually worth." I read through the offer. Benefits, equity package, team size, budget authority. Everything I should have had years ago. "Can I have until tomorrow morning?" I asked. "I want to review this properly with my wife." "Absolutely. Take the time you need." We shook hands, and I walked out of that building feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Valued. That night, Carol and I sat at the kitchen table with the offer letter between us. Drew had come home from college for the weekend and listened as I explained everything. "So let me get this straight," Drew said. "Mr. Caldwell fired you for interviewing somewhere else after refusing to give you a raise for 3 years? That's about it. And now that company wants to hire you at double your salary?" "Yes." Drew looked at his mother, then back at me. "Dad, that's the easiest decision you've ever had to make." Carol smiled. "Sign it, Rich. You've earned this 10 times over." I signed the offer that night and emailed it back to Alan. His response came through within an hour. "Welcome to the team. See you Monday." Drew opened the bourbon I'd been saving, Maker's Mark, the bottle from his high school graduation. "To not settling," he said. We clinked glasses. Next morning, unknown number. "Richard Brennan?" A woman's voice. "Speaking. This is Patricia Holmes. I'm on the board at Harbor Point Communications. I understand there was an incident regarding your employment. I'd like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss it. Preston may have been hasty." So that's what this was. Preston had fired his most valuable project director without board approval, and now North Bay was potentially walking. Damage control. "I appreciate the call, Ms. Holmes, but I've already accepted another position." A pause. "May I ask where?" "I don't think that would be appropriate to share right now." Another, longer pause. "Richard, if this is about compensation, I'm sure we can revisit those conversations." "The board values your contribution." The irony almost made me laugh. 3 years of documented, rejected requests, and now suddenly the board valued my contribution. "It's not just about compensation," I said carefully. "It's about respect. About recognizing employee worth before they have one foot out the door. Perhaps we should discuss this in person." "Tomorrow morning." I thought about it. I had no intention of returning to Harbor Point, but there was something to be said for closure. I can meet at 9 a.m., but to be clear, I've signed an employment contract elsewhere. I'm not coming to negotiate. "Understood," Patricia said, though her tone suggested she didn't believe me. Next morning, walking back into Harbor Point felt surreal. Melissa at the front desk looked shocked to see me. "Richard, you're here for the meeting with Ms. Holmes?" "That's right. I'll let her know." She lowered her voice. "For what it's worth, everyone's talking about how wrong this was." "Thanks, Melissa." Patricia Holmes was waiting in the conference room. Silver hair, sharp suit, the kind of person who made million-dollar decisions before breakfast. "Mr. Brennan, thank you for coming." She gestured to a chair. "I've reviewed your personnel file. 12 years of excellent performance reviews, consistent growth in your project portfolio, and 3 formal requests for salary adjustment, all denied." She looked up at me. I was not aware of this pattern. I assumed compensation decisions were reviewed at board level. Major changes, yes. But management has discretion within certain parameters. Preston has been operating with significant autonomy. Her tone suggested disapproval. I see. What I don't see is documentation justifying your termination. There's no company policy prohibiting interviews with other organizations. The word used was disloyal. Patricia's eyebrow raised slightly. Interesting choice, given the circumstances. She closed the folder. Mr. Brennan, I'll be direct. The board would like to offer you reinstatement with the adjusted compensation you requested in your last review, plus a 10% increase in the title of Senior Director of Operations. It was better than anything Preston had been willing to consider, but it came 3 years and one humiliating firing too late. That's generous, I acknowledged, but as I mentioned, I've accepted a position elsewhere. I start Monday. At North Bay Solutions, Patricia stated. Not asking. I didn't confirm or deny. Preston is concerned North Bay may reconsider their relationship with Harbor Point, given your departure. And there it was. Not concern for how I'd been treated, but fear of losing revenue. That would be a question for North Bay, I said. Patricia studied me for a moment. One last question. What could Harbor Point have done differently to retain you? I considered my answer carefully. Recognized my value before I had to look elsewhere to find it. Loyalty works both ways, Ms. Holmes. Harbor Point expected unwavering commitment while repeatedly demonstrating I wasn't worth investing in. That's not sustainable. She nodded slowly. Fair assessment. She stood, extending her hand. Thank you for your candor. Whatever your next steps, I wish you success. Walking out of Harbor Point for the final time, I exhaled. First time all week I'd taken a full breath. That meeting wasn't about giving me a second chance. It was about giving me the chance to leave on my terms, with my dignity intact. Monday morning, I arrived at North Bay early. My new office had a door, windows, and a welcome basket Alan's assistant had arranged. At 9 a.m., Alan introduced me to my team, 5 technical specialists who'd be working under my direction. Team, this is Richard Brennan, our new Director of Technical Operations, Alan announced. Many of you know him from his work at Harbor Point. We're fortunate to have his expertise in-house now. After introductions and a brief team meeting, Alan asked me to join him in the conference room. Several North Bay executives were there. Before you dive in completely, Alan explained, we wanted your input on an important decision. In light of recent changes, we're reevaluating our relationship with Harbor Point Communications. Their contract is up for renewal next month. The CFO spoke up. We value your perspective, Richard. You understand our needs and have first-hand knowledge of Harbor Point's capabilities. I could have recommended terminating the relationship right there. Easy revenge. A significant financial blow to Harbor Point that no one would question. But that wasn't who I was. I think you should evaluate Harbor Point on the same criteria as any other potential partner, I said carefully. Their work has been strong, but consistency and account management will be critical factors moving forward. The decision came a week later, not from me. I'd recused myself to avoid any appearance of bias. But the executive team made their call after reviewing proposals from 3 competing agencies. The email went out Wednesday at 11 a.m. Alan showed it to me first as a courtesy. After careful consideration of our technical infrastructure needs, North Bay Solutions has decided to transition our account to Meridian Technical Services, effective immediately. Richard Brennan, our Director of Technical Operations, will oversee the transition. We appreciate our partnership and request all materials be transferred by end of business Friday. I imagined Preston's reaction. The shock, then the realization. He'd lost me, and now he'd lost North Bay, 30% of Harbor Point's revenue, and I'd be managing the transition, the perfect professional revenge, and I hadn't orchestrated any of it. That afternoon, I got a LinkedIn request from Melissa, followed by a message. The office is chaos. Preston's been in emergency meetings all day. 3 other directors have updated their resumes. Karma works fast. I didn't reply immediately. No need to gloat. Instead, I focused on building my team and establishing our processes. Later, I accepted Melissa's connection with a simple message. Thank you for your kindness during my time at Harbor Point. Wishing you the best. Brian called me a month later. You're not going to believe this. Preston resigned. Board forced him out after they found out he'd been approving his nephew's consulting invoices. $15,000 a month for strategic advising. Kid's 23 years old. Karma, I said. Gets better. Harbor Point lost 2 more major clients. Word got out about how they treat people. Preston's doing independent consulting now. Translation, unemployed and calling old contacts. I didn't feel satisfaction exactly, just closure. The guy who fired me for looking elsewhere was now doing exactly that, except nobody was calling him back. "What about you?" Brian asked. "How's North Bay treating you?" "Good. Really good, actually. Built a solid team. We're handling some interesting projects. You sound different, lighter." He was right. I wasn't checking my phone at 11 p.m. anymore. Wasn't missing Drew's calls because I was stuck in some meeting Preston had inserted himself into. I was doing the work I was good at, with people who valued it. 3 months into the job, Drew called me after his fall semester finals. "Hey Dad, I'm thinking about switching my major to operations management." "Yeah? What made you decide?" "Watching how you handled everything last year. I want to learn how to build systems that actually work, and treat people right while doing it." That meant more than the Forbes article that came out about North Bay's growth, more than the salary, more than any of it. My son saw what I did and wanted to follow that path. "I'll help any way I can," I told him. "I know you will. That's the point." By summer, my team had streamlined 3 major infrastructure projects and brought in 2 new clients, specifically because they'd heard about our work. Alan promoted me to VP of Technical Operations with an equity stake in the company. Carol and I took a weekend trip to the coast to celebrate. First real vacation we'd had in 5 years. "You know what's different?" she said as we sat watching the sunset over the Pacific. "You're home for dinner now. You went to Drew's graduation without checking your phone every 10 minutes. You're actually here." She was right. At Harbor Point, I'd been running on empty for years, giving everything to a place that saw me as replaceable. Now I was working just as hard, maybe harder, but it felt different. It felt like building something instead of just surviving. "Preston did me a favor," I said. "I just didn't know it at the time." "He's an idiot," Carol said. "But yes, sometimes getting pushed out the door is exactly what you need." A year out from all this, I took Drew to the Mariners opening day. First time in 5 years I hadn't checked my phone during the game, just watched baseball with my son, drank overpriced beer, and didn't think about work once. "Dad," Drew said during the 7th inning stretch, "I got accepted into North Bay's summer internship program." I looked at him. "You applied?" "Yeah." Didn't want to say anything until I knew. "They're putting me in the operations track. I'll be working with your team." "That's great, Drew. Really great. I mean, no nepotism or anything," he said quickly. "I went through the normal process. They don't even know you're my dad yet." I laughed. "I'm sure they'll figure it out when you show up." "Think people will have a problem with it? You know what I learned this year?" I said. "If you do the work and you're good at what you do, people respect that. It's when you expect special treatment or skip the work that it becomes a problem. You earned that internship. Own it." He nodded, smiling. "Thanks, Pops." We watched the rest of the game. Mariners won 4-2. Walking out of the stadium with Drew, the evening air cool and clear, I thought about where I'd been a year ago, sitting in Preston's office, being called disloyal, packing up 12 years in a cardboard box, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my career by looking elsewhere. Turned out, the biggest mistake would have been staying. My phone buzzed. Text from Alan. "Great work on the Patterson project. Board's talking about expanding your team. Let's discuss Monday." I put the phone back in my pocket. Monday was 3 days away. It could wait. "You hungry?" I asked Drew. "Starving." We found a burger place near the stadium, sat at the bar, ordered food, talked about his classes and his plans for the summer internship. Normal stuff. Father-son stuff I'd been too busy or too stressed to do enough of over the years. "Can I ask you something?" Drew said. "Do you regret how it went down? With Mr. Caldwell and everything?" I thought about it. "No, I regret not leaving sooner. I regret giving them 3 extra years of my life after the first time they told me I wasn't worth investing in. But getting fired? That was the push I needed. Sometimes you need someone to make the decision for you when you're too loyal to make it yourself." "I get that," he said. I saw how stressed you were, how much it sucked." It did suck, for about 2 weeks. But then I realized something. Preston thought he was punishing me. He thought firing me would teach me a lesson about loyalty or whatever. What he actually did was free me. Drew raised his beer. "To getting fired, then," I clinked my glass against his. "To knowing your worth." We finished our burgers, drove home through the city. The lights of Spokane spread out below us as we crossed the bridge. Same city, same streets, same house I'd been living in for 20 years. But everything felt different now. Carol was still up when I got home, reading on the couch. "How was the game?" Mariners won. Drew got the North Bay internship. She smiled. That's wonderful. I'm proud of him. Me too. I sat down next to her. She put down her book. You know what I realized today? I said. I'm happy. Actually, happy. Not just okay or getting by. Happy. Good, she said simply. You deserve it. Maybe I did. Maybe I'd earned it. Or maybe I just finally learned that loyalty works both ways, and the second someone stops valuing what you bring, you have every right to take it somewhere that does. Preston Caldwell taught me that lesson. He just didn't mean to. And that, in the end, was the best revenge of all.